In a small, quiet village nestled between rolling hills and lush forests lived an old man named Elias. He was known throughout the village as the gardener, though no one could remember how he earned the title. Elias lived in a modest cottage at the edge of the village, surrounded by a vast garden that seemed to stretch endlessly. His garden was unlike any other, vibrant, alive, and filled with every kind of flower, fruit, and tree imaginable. It was a place of wonder, a sanctuary for anyone who needed peace or inspiration. But Elias's garden wasn't always this way. In fact, it had once been a barren patch of land, dry and lifeless. The story of how it transformed into a paradise was a mystery to the villagers, and Elias rarely spoke of it. That is, until one day, a young boy named Theodore came knocking on his door. Theodore was a curious and restless 12-year-old who often found himself in trouble. He struggled in school, had few friends, and felt like he didn't belong. His parents, though loving, were often too busy to give him the attention he craved. One afternoon, after yet another argument with his teacher, Theodore ran away from school and found himself wandering the outskirts of the village. That's when he stumbled upon Elias's garden. The sight took his breath away. Flowers of every color bloomed in perfect harmony, their petals glistening in the sunlight. Trees heavy with fruit swayed gently in the breeze, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine and roses. Theodore had never seen anything so beautiful. He stood at the gate mesmerized until a soft voice called out to him. "Hello there, young man. What brings you to my garden?" Theodore turned to see Elias standing behind him, his face weathered but kind, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "I was just exploring," Theodore stammered. "Your garden is amazing. How did you do it?" Elias smiled. "It's a long story. Would you like to hear it?" Theodore nodded eagerly, and Elias invited him inside. Elias led Theodore to a small bench under a sprawling oak tree. As they sat down, Elias began to tell his story. "Many years ago, when I was about your age, this land was nothing but dry, cracked earth. Nothing grew here, no plants, no trees, not even weeds. People said it was cursed, but I didn't believe them. I saw potential where others saw only emptiness." Theodore listened intently as Elias continued. "I decided to plant a single seed, a tiny, fragile thing. I watered it every day, even when there was no rain. I protected it from the wind and the sun, and I talked to it, encouraging it to grow. Weeks passed and nothing happened. People laughed at me, saying I was wasting my time. But I didn't give up. Then one day, a small green shoot emerged from the soil. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. That little shoot gave me hope, and I kept nurturing it. Over time, it grew into a strong, healthy plant, and that plant produced seeds of its own, which I planted in other parts of the garden. Slowly but surely, the barren land began to transform." Elias gestured to the garden around them. "This is the result of years of patience, persistence, and care. Every plant here started as a single seed, just like the first one I planted." Theodore was amazed. "But how did you know it would work? What if nothing ever grew?" Elias chuckled. "I didn't know. That's the thing about life, Theodore. We can't always predict the outcome of our efforts. But if we don't try, we'll never know what's possible. The key is to keep going, even when it's hard, even when others doubt you." Theodore thought about this for a moment. "But what if I try and fail? What if I'm not good enough?" Elias placed a hand on Theodore's shoulder. "Failure isn't the end, my boy. It's just a step on the journey. Every plant in this garden has faced challenges, storms, droughts, pests. But they keep growing, and so can you." Inspired by Elias's words, Theodore decided to take his advice to heart. He started small, planting a single seed in his backyard. He watered it every day, just as Elias had done, and watched it grow. Over time, Theodore began to apply the same principles to other areas of his life. He worked harder in school, even when the lessons were difficult. He reached out to other kids, building friendships based on kindness and understanding. And when he faced setbacks, he reminded himself of Elias's garden and the power of persistence. Years passed, and Theodore grew into a confident, compassionate young man. His backyard, once empty, was now filled with flowers and vegetables. But more importantly, he had cultivated a life filled with purpose and joy. One day, Theodore returned to Elias's garden to thank him. But when he arrived, he found the cottage empty. The garden, however, was more beautiful than ever. A note was left on the bench under the oak tree. It read, "Asterisk, dear Theodore, the true beauty of a garden lies not in its flowers, but in the seeds it plants in the hearts of those who tend it. You are my greatest harvest. Keep growing, keep believing, and never forget the power of patience and persistence. With love, Elias. Asterisk. Theodore smiled, tears in his eyes. He realized that Elias's garden was more than just a place. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the endless potential within each of us.